Is the Advanced Paris a Mcintosh killer at less than half the price? Yeah. This company could really help you change your life. Whether you're struggling with a big transition or just feel like you could use someone to talk to, Betterhelp, the sponsor of today's video, can be a great resource. Betterhelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their website. You can go to betterhelp.com/cheapaudioman. You answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who has years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. And you can do it on your phone, on your computer, video chat. It's however you feel comfortable. It is the easiest way to start talking to a therapist. After you fill out the questions on the website, you'll be matched with a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist that can help you and your specific needs, all from the comfort of your own home. So visit betterhelp.com/cheapaudioman or choose Cheap Audio Man at checkout and enjoy a special discount for your first month. Thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring today's video. This is a power amplifier, which means you need a source. This just powers speakers. No DAC, no phonostage, no streamer. This is audio amplification in its purest form. Mcintosh Killer at half the price. It's a little bit spicy, but in some ways, it's very true. Even for people that aren't super into hi-fi, they know what a Mcintosh amplifier is. They know what those big blue meters are. And these meters are blue, kind of. The XA160 Evo comes in at $2,000. That is a lot of money. But if you're going to invest in a hi-fi, this may be the place to do it. Bear with me. This is going to be some sales speak on my part. We all have these. This is a mobile telephone, an iPhone to be exact. I believe this is an iPhone 15. $1,100, $1,000, $1,200. I don't know. I pay for it monthly in my phone bill. This is probably going to be replaced in the next 2 years max. I probably keep a phone for 18 months to 2 years. And then I pay for the next one. A power amp, because it's not as complicated as an integrated amplifier, as a streamer, as a DAC, has longevity. This is a piece of equipment that you could have for 20, 30, even 40 years. I've got a very nice Kenwood back there that's older than I am. I think it's had a little bit of work done. That was a gift from Lenny. But in the age of disposable audio, in the age of obsoleted audio, this is a product that if you're going to spend your money, amplifiers and speakers are generally a safe place to invest your money because they're not really going to change. One of the cool things about the design of this amplifier is it's through-hole soldering, and fundamentally it's designed the same way that amplifiers from the 60s, 70s, 80s were designed. So if there ever is a problem, it can be fixed at the component level. $1,999 is expensive and it's not lost on me. But if you even divide that out by 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably going to last longer than your TV, your cell phone, your computer, your dishwasher, your refrigerator, your washer and dryer, all that stuff. The XA160 Evo comes in at 19 kilograms. How many pounds is 19 kilograms? About 42 pounds. Not crazy, but just heavy enough to let you know that it's serious. Power ratings come in at 2 times 160 watts into 8 ohms, 2 times 240 watts into 4 ohms, and it comes with a 700 watt toroidal power transformer. About that big. Size of like an extra large donut. And if there's one thing I like better than a donut, it's a big toroidal transformer. Pretty straightforward on the back. Balanced or single-ended connections, and there is a toggle switch on the back to choose between either balanced or single-ended. You have a master power switch right next to an IEC connector back there. 2 very nice size binding posts. You have 2 switches on the top. One is for the high bias or the Class A bias. The other one is for the intensity of the VU meter lights, and you can actually switch it off, which I don't know why you'd want to do that unless you're a crazy person. There is off, medium, and then high. I leave it in high because that's part of the reason why you would buy this product, is because of the VU meters. On the front, there is a single power switch. When it's turned off, it shows up in red. When it's turned on, it's in kind of like a light blue color. Right above the power button is the high bias indicator. If it's on, well then high bias is lit up. If it's off, it's not. There's a switch on the back. High bias means first few watts are in Class A only. And if you hang with me, I'll tell you if they sound different. They do. The equipment that I had feeding the Advance Paris X A160 Evo was, coincidentally, the Cambridge Audio 150 Evo, the DeLorean edition, which in and of itself is an integrated amplifier. However, it does have preamp outputs, which I was running into the AP amp. It's easier to say AP amp. I also use the Cambridge Audio CXN 100, which is just a streamer and a DAC. So you don't need a traditional preamp to utilize the power amp. If you only stream, if you only have digital inputs, you could just use a DAC with a variable output for volume control. The speakers I had hooked up to it were the Emotiva XT1. They're a floor standing tower speaker that I just love. They come in at $1,000 a pair. I also had the Opera Prima bookshelf speakers. Both of these speakers are fairly efficient. The Emotivas are 89 dB sensitive. The Opera loudspeakers are actually 91 dB sensitive. So you're probably throwing things at the screen at this point. Let's talk about how it sounds. So I had 3 different front ends on this. One was the A10 Classic, which is an integrated amp from Advance Paris, but I was using it as a preamp. I had the CXN100, which is a streamer from Cambridge Audio, going into the Jashali Labs Daisy, which is a very nice DAC, going into the A10 Classic, an integrated amp, acting as a preamp, and then going into the APX 160 Evo. It was delightful. The A10 Classic has a tube front end, so we had a little bit of tubiness going on. Not only that, we have the best DAC I've ever heard going on. So it sounded awesome. Most of my listening was done in the high bias mode, or the Class A mode. So you have a really good streamer, you have the best DAC I've ever heard, going into a preamp with tubes on the front end. Sounded delightful. Sounded like the angels kicked in my door and were presenting Hello Nasty by the Beastie Boys to me, which incidentally, if you have not heard that record lately, please go listen to it, because there's a bunch of stuff going on. Spatially, you got bass, you got highs, awesome vocal dynamics. I listened to the first 5 tracks on that record about 10 times because I listened to it on both speakers, the XT ones from Emotiva, the Opera loudspeakers. I listened to it on the rig I just talked about. I listened to it on the Cambridge Audio Evo 150, and then I listened to it with the CXN 100, just going straight from it into the power amp. So 3 different sources times 2 different sound modes, high bias and regular bias. Okay, so the difference between high bias and regular bias. It's not just warmth. It's not just a little bit of easygoingness. There is stuff going on in the top end. It's a little bit sweeter on the top end. The bass is less cleanly defined in the Class A bias, but not veiled, not soft. But there's just a little bit of pixie dust with the Class A bias. Class AB, I wouldn't say is analytical, not at all. It's very musical, very dynamic, but it's probably what most people are used to if they have a really good Class AB amplifier. So in essence, it's like getting 2 amplifiers in one. I think you get 20 watts in the Class A bias, which is more power than most people are using in most speakers, in most rooms, at most listening levels, unless you're a crazy person. So there was a flavor with each different source and in high bias versus regular bias. My favorite, the CXN 100 going into the Gishelli Labs Daisy, going into the Advanced Paris A10 Classic. Magical. Magical. The bass power, the dynamics of this amplifier were so much that I had to pull the XT1s from Emotiva a little bit out from the wall. There was just so much bass. If you have a speaker that is punchy on the bottom and you have to have it close to a wall, you may want to consider plugging the ports if you get this amplifier, because it will smack you in the face. It's funny because the hook of this video is Mcintosh Killer at half the price. I had a Mcintosh 7270, which is a big, beefy 270 watt autoformer power amplifier from the late 80s. And guess what? The AP in Class A bias reminds me a little bit of the 7270. Now, since it's an autoformer amp, it puts out the same amount of wattage or any given load. The AP doesn't stay the same. So if you have different loads, you're going to have different power levels. The great thing is 160 watts into 8 or 240 into 4 is plenty enough. Absolutely 100% probably going to cover most people's use case scenarios. This is the most dynamic amplifier that I have heard, other than maybe the Emotiva differential monoblocks, which 2 of those come in around $3,200. This thing will punch, and since it punches so hard, it was great with the Opera bookshelves because I didn't feel like I was lacking in any bottom end. What are my final thoughts? Final thoughts. I get it, it's $2,000, but this amplifier can live with you for 20 years, for 10 years, for 30 years. It's everything that anybody needs, really. It's beautiful to look at, and whether or not we want to admit it, if we're looking at a black box, if we're looking at something from Monoprice, even Emotiva, and I love Emotiva, or you get a chance to see those VU meters moving back and forth. I'm going to choose the VU meters because visually speaking, that is part of the emotional response we have when we're listening to music. I like it. It feels vintage. It was so cool to have the Cambridge Audio CXN 100 and the Cambridge Audio 150 Evo hooked up to the AP amp because you have modern and vintage going at the same time. The front, the glass or the plexi on the front is like a ½ an inch thick. It was so difficult to get this thing on video because you can't do it justice in photos or on video. You have to see it in real life to really appreciate it. The thing is built like a tank. It's gorgeous. And I've learned a lot about Advanced Paris recently as a company. I'm going to link a video that kind of is basically a promo video, a promotional video about AP at the end if you want to learn more about it. But you should, because they have very gifted designers. The president of the company, I think, is going to take this to different heights. And I kind of called this Advanced Paris thing, and you could call me a hype man for Advanced Paris, and I guess I am, because it's an awesome product at a very reasonable price. And if you're comparing it to Mcintosh, it is cheap. It's half the price. People are going to watch this video. You're not the cheap on it, man. This is $2,000. Well, cheap is relative. Is it the exact same sound as a Mac? I don't know. I don't have a current Mcintosh power amplifier, but from memory, it does have the vibes of my Mcintosh 7270. And it's the effortless dynamics. It's the large soundstage. It's the musical experience. But the AP160 Evo is different enough that I could hear differences in sources. I could hear differences in speakers, obviously. So you're getting two sounds in one, high bias versus regular bias. They're not remarkably different, but they are different. You get a unit that has a 2-year warranty that's repairable. It's built very well. It's stunningly beautiful, in my opinion. You may not like it. That's fine. There may be no value for you with the VU meters, with the way it looks. But if you're looking at amplifiers from places like Aperion, which is just a box, it comes in at $1,200. So whether or not you think it's worth it is up to you, but this thing obviously does not belong in a closet. It belongs in a rack in your living room, in your den, wherever it is, because there's something romantic about this, and you cannot divorce that from the experience you have sonically. I think it's an absolute stunning product. Probably gonna buy it. Probably not going back. I love it. The funny thing was, I put the fake VU meters on the CXN100 and the Evo 150 from Cambridge Audio, and then I had the VU meters on the A10 Classic, which was acting as a preamp, and then I had the meters on the APX 160 Evo. A lot of meters going on, and I loved it. 10 out of 10. If you want to support the channel and become part of the best community in hi-fi, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It's patreon.com/cheapaudioman. We have a Discord server. We have a Facebook group. I put up patron-only videos sometimes. We also have patron Zoom meetings where we all get together and chit-chat. And with certain tiers, I get together and I have one-on-one calls with you if you like. If you like this video, you got to check out the video I made about the Advanced Paris A10 Classic, which is the integrated that you see in a lot of this video too. I'll link it here or here. I will also link the Advanced Paris promo video here or here so you can learn more about the company. I believe in the company. I think it's going to absolutely blow up over here in the United States of America and Canada, North America, everywhere, worldwide, internationally. AP is going to crush it. Thank you so much for watching.